The corridors of the Imperial Diplomatic Station gleamed under artificial starlight as Tae-sung pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway. At 45 years old, he had been working the night shift for 3 years now, ever since the divorce left him needing extra income to support his daughter back on Earth. The station was massive. It floated in space like a small city, housing delegates from hundreds of alien species. Most people thought his job was boring, but Tae-sung did not mind. While diplomats slept, he cleaned the halls where the fate of entire worlds was decided during the day. There was dignity in that, he thought. He hummed quietly as he mopped the floors, his mind drifting to his daughter Hannah. She was 9 years old now. Her birthday was next month, and he was saving up to visit her. The video calls were not enough anymore. She was growing up, and he was missing it. Tonight felt different, though. The air seemed heavier somehow. As Tae-sung approached the residential wing, reserved for high-ranking diplomats, a sound made him stop. Crying. Not just ordinary crying, but desperate, terrified sobbing that made his chest tighten. The sound reminded him of when Hannah was little and woke from nightmares. He followed the sound down a side corridor. The crying grew louder. It was coming from a secured suite marked with strange symbols that glowed faintly purple. He recognized them from the station directory as belonging to the Vintian Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Through the transparent security barrier, Tae-sung could see inside the room. 2 small children sat on the floor, no bigger than human toddlers. Their skin was smooth and pale, covered in patterns that glowed and pulsed with light. Right now, those patterns flashed angry red, like warning signals. The children were screaming, their small bodies shaking. In the corner of the room, a robot nanny sparked and twitched uselessly. It had broken down. Tae-sung hesitated. This was a diplomatic suite. He was just a janitor. But those were children, and they were alone and terrified. His maintenance credentials gave him basic access to fix technical problems. The station administration trusted him with that much after 3 years of reliable work. He pressed his badge against the door panel. The barrier dissolved, and he stepped inside. The moment he entered, the twins cried even harder. Their red bioluminescence grew brighter, pulsing faster. Tae-sung noticed something strange. Each child's panic seemed to make the other worse, like they were feeding off each other's fear. He had been a medic in the military before taking this job. He knew panic attacks when he saw them. These children were trapped in a cycle of terror. "Hey, hey," Tae-sung said softly, kneeling down to their level. He kept his movements slow and gentle. "It's okay. You're safe now." The children did not understand his words. Their large eyes, which reflected his face like dark mirrors, stared at him with confusion and fear. But his calm tone seemed to register. The screaming reduced to ragged, gasping sobs. Tae-sung's mind flashed back to countless nights with Hannah. Scraped knees, thunderstorms, the first day of school, monsters under the bed. What always worked when nothing else would. Almost without thinking, he began to hum. The melody was old, something his grandmother had taught him when he was young. He had sung it to Hannah 1,000 times. Then quietly he began to sing. "Hush, little baby. Don't say a word. Papa's going to buy you a mockingbird." The effect was immediate and startling. The twins stopped crying. Their bioluminescent patterns flickered, the angry red fading to orange, then yellow. Their small mouths hung open in surprise. They stared at him with wide, curious eyes. Tae-sung kept singing, his voice soft and steady in the quiet room. "And if that mockingbird don't sing, Papa's going to buy you a diamond ring." The patterns on their skin continued to change. Yellow shifted to green, then blue, then a soft purple that seemed to glow from within. The children moved closer to him, their fear melting away. They reached out with small 3-fingered hands, touching his knee, his sleeve, fascinated by this strange creature who made soothing sounds. Tae-sung sang the entire lullaby twice more. The twins' eyes grew heavy. They yawned, showing tiny pointed teeth. Finally, they curled up together on their sleeping platform, the bioluminescence now a gentle lavender pulse that reminded him of a nightlight. He waited, barely breathing, until their breathing deepened and slowed into sleep. Quietly, Tae-sung stood, He reset the broken nanny droid so a proper technician could repair it in the morning. He checked that the room's environmental controls were working correctly. Then he slipped back out into the corridor, the door sealing behind him. He glanced at his watch. The whole thing had taken 20 minutes. He was behind schedule now. Shaking his head at the strange encounter, Tae-sung returned to his cart. Tomorrow, he would file a maintenance report about the robot. Just another night on the station. Just another small problem solved. He had no idea that hidden cameras had recorded everything. He had no idea that Empress Mayan of the Vintian Empire had watched the entire scene from her private quarters 3 levels above. And he had no idea that what he had just done should have been biologically impossible. Empress Mayan replayed the security footage for the 7th time, her scaled hands trembling slightly against the control panel. What she had just witnessed defied everything she understood about Vintian biology. The distress trial was an ancient tradition in her culture. Royal children must learn to self-soothe during panic episodes. It was cruel, perhaps, but necessary for survival. Vintian anxiety was different from other species. When a Vintian child panicked, their body released special chemicals called pheromones into the air. These pheromones made the panic worse, creating a terrible cycle. Fear fed more fear, growing stronger and stronger. Only members of the royal bloodline could produce counter-pheromones. Only family could break the cycle and calm a distressed Vintian royal. It was a biological fact, proven over thousands of years. Yet this human janitor had done it with nothing but his voice. Mayan pressed the communication button on her desk. "Commander Byung-ho, come to my private office immediately. Tell no one." Her head of security arrived within minutes, his expression professionally neutral. "Your Majesty, run a complete background check on the human janitor named Tae-sung. I want everything, but keep this inquiry completely secret. No one else must know." Byung-ho's face showed no surprise. He simply bowed and left. The report came back within hours. Mayan read it 3 times, searching for something extraordinary. There was nothing. Tae-sung Webb, 45 years old, Korean-American heritage, former military medic who served with distinction but saw no major combat. Divorced 3 years ago. 1 daughter named Hannah, age 9, living on Earth with her mother. The divorce had been amicable but sad. Financial stress, mostly. His work record at the station was perfect. Always on time. Never complained. Other workers said he was kind and friendly. His supervisors noted he took pride in even the smallest tasks. No criminal history. No political connections. No genetic modifications. No special training in alien psychology. He was completely, utterly ordinary. Mayan leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling. How was this possible? She pulled up the security feeds and began watching Tae-sung during his normal shifts. She felt slightly guilty for spying, but she needed to understand. He moved through the corridors each night with quiet efficiency. He cleaned with care, making sure every surface gleamed. He talked to the decorative plants as he watered them, telling them about his day as if they were old friends. He hummed constantly, dozens of different melodies she had never heard before. When he encountered other workers, he always smiled and asked how they were doing. He remembered their names. He noticed small things like when someone looked tired or sad, and he would say something kind. There was something peaceful about him, something steady. 3 nights after the first incident, Mayan made a decision. She remotely triggered a minor malfunction in the nanny droid again. Not enough to cause real danger, just enough to shut it down temporarily. The twins began crying immediately. Their bioluminescence flashed red. Mayan watched the security feed, her heart beating fast. Would he come back? Maybe the first time had been luck or an accident. 20 minutes later, Tae-sung appeared in the corridor. He heard the crying and went straight to the door without hesitation. He did not look annoyed or bothered. He looked concerned. He entered the room and knelt down just as he had before. This time he sang a different song. The words were in English, something about twinkling stars. The melody was simple and repetitive. The twins calmed within seconds. Their patterns shifted to happy golden colors. They recognized him now. They crawled toward him eagerly, touching his hands and face with wonder. Taesung reached into his pocket and pulled out small figures made of folded paper. A bird, a flower, a star. He gave one to each twin, showing them how the paper wings could move. The children were delighted, their bioluminescence dancing with joy. Mayan felt something strange in her chest. When was the last time she had seen her sons so happy? Over the following weeks, she arranged more malfunctions. Each time, Taesung returned. He brought more paper figures. He sang different songs in different languages, Korean and English mostly. He was teaching her children words without even realizing it. Hello, little Gio would say carefully, copying the sounds. Star, Minseo would repeat, pointing at the paper figure. The twins began waiting for him each night. They would press against the transparent barrier when they heard the wheels of his cleaning cart in the corridor. Their patterns would glow bright with anticipation. Mayan researched human culture obsessively during this time. She learned about lullabies, songs specifically designed to calm children and help them sleep. Humans had developed these tools over thousands of years. They used music, touch, and consistent presence to soothe their young across any barrier. It was not biology. It was culture. It was choice. Most species in the galaxy relied on instinct, pheromones, genetic programming. They bonded with their own kind naturally, automatically. Humans had to work at it. They had to learn how to comfort and connect. And somehow, that made them better at crossing the boundaries between species. Mayan watched the janitor sing to her children and realized something terrifying. If this ordinary human could achieve what trained diplomats from powerful civilizations could not, then everything was about to change. She had a diplomatic crisis brewing with the Kralix Confederation. Their alliance treaty required a demonstration of the imperial bond. Dozens of their finest representatives had tried and failed to connect with her children, but Taesung had succeeded without even trying. The truth would humiliate the Kralix. It would shock the entire galactic community. It would force everyone to reconsider humanity's place in the galaxy. Mayan made her decision. Truth mattered more than pride. It was time to meet the janitor. The Kralix Confederation's lead ambassador slammed his armored appendage against the negotiation table. The sound echoed through the conference hall like thunder. 3 weeks. Ambassador Vork's translator device rendered his growl into clipped syllables. 3 weeks of your imperial bond demonstrations and nothing. Your heirs reject every overture. Perhaps this legendary bond is nothing but Vintian propaganda. Empress Mayan sat perfectly still at the head of the table. Her skin patterns betrayed her stress with subtle orange flickers, but her voice remained calm. The bond is real, Ambassador. My children are simply selective about whom they trust. Selective? Vork leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow across the table. We have brought our finest diplomats, our greatest warriors, our most respected cultural specialists. Every single one has failed. Your children scream, and their skin turns that awful red color. They want nothing to do with us. Murmurs rippled through the assembled diplomats from a dozen different species. The tension in the room was thick enough to touch. A delegate from the Talari Union spoke up. Her voice translated into clear tones. Perhaps the Empress should explain why this bond is so important. Some of us are beginning to wonder if the Vintians are as special as they claim. Mayan felt anger flash through her, but she controlled it. The imperial bond has been documented for 3,000 years. When a Vintian royal accepts someone during vulnerability, it creates a connection of absolute trust. This is not propaganda. This is our history. Then demonstrate it. Vork demanded. The alliance treaty requires proof. We need to know that your people can truly bond with outsiders. Otherwise, how can we trust any agreement we make? The stakes were enormous. 3 border systems hung in the balance. Major trade routes. Mining rights to rare minerals. Without this alliance, small conflicts could explode into war. Millions of lives depended on this treaty. Mayan knew all of this. The weight of it pressed down on her constantly. Give us more time, she said quietly. We have given you time. Vorik's translator almost could not keep up with his anger. "We begin to think you are stalling, that you cannot deliver what you promise." The meeting ended badly. Delegates filed out in small groups, whispering to each other. Mayan could see the doubt in their eyes. Meanwhile, for a level below in the station's maintenance sector, Tae-sung had no idea any of this was happening. He was having his own crisis. His ex-wife had called earlier that day. Hannah's school had raised their fees again. The scholarship had only covered part of the costs, and now there was a gap they could not afford. "You need to come back to Earth," his ex-wife had said. Her voice was not angry, just tired. "Get a real job, Tae-sung, one with proper pay and benefits. Hannah needs stability." "I have a job," he had replied quietly. "You're a janitor in space. What kind of future is that?" The call had ended with nothing resolved. Tae-sung had gone to work with a heavy heart, but the night shift had its routines, and routines helped. He pushed his cart through the familiar corridors, cleaning and organizing. The work was honest. It mattered. Even if others did not see it that way. When he reached the residential wing, the twins were waiting as usual. The nanny droid's malfunctions had become so regular that Tae-sung had simply started planning for them. He had even brought his guitar tonight, shipped from Earth at considerable expense. Music helped him think, helped him feel less alone. The door opened and the twins rushed to the barrier, their patterns glowing bright gold with excitement. "Tae-sung!" Little Mincio cried out, mangling the pronunciation adorably. Tae-sung smiled despite his worries. "Hey, little ones, ready for tonight's song." He settled cross-legged on the floor and pulled out his guitar. The twins sat close, their eyes wide with fascination. They loved watching his fingers move across the strings. He played softly, singing "You Are My Sunshine" in Korean this time. His grandmother had taught him this version. The melody was slightly different from the English one, more melancholy somehow. The twins swayed to the music. Their bioluminescence moved in waves across their skin, blue and purple patterns that looked like ocean currents. "Sunshine," the smaller twin attempted, trying to copy the word. Tae-sung laughed. It was the first time he had laughed all day. "Close. Sunshine. 2 parts. Sunday shine." "Sunshine!" Both twins chorused together, their voices high and sweet. He taught them more words through the songs. "Friend. Star. Night. Dream." They repeated everything eagerly, stumbling over the unfamiliar sounds. They were just children, Tae-sung thought as he played. Alien, yes. From a powerful empire, yes. But still just children who needed someone to show up, to be consistent, to be gentle. It reminded him of Hannah. She needed the same things. Presence, attention, someone who kept their promises. He felt the familiar ache of missing her. Next month she would turn 10, and he would not be there. He was running out of excuses, running out of time. In the observation room 3 levels above, Empress Mind watched the security feed with her chief advisor, an elderly Vintian named Sang-woo. "The Kraliks are threatening to walk away," Sang-woo said quietly. "If this alliance fails, we will be vulnerable. The Talar Union is already making moves toward those border systems." Mayan watched the human janitor sing to her children. Watch them laugh and learn and trust completely. "I know how to save the alliance," she said. Sang-woo looked at her with concern. "How, Your Majesty?" "We tell them the truth." "What truth?" Mayan gestured at the screen. "That a human janitor has achieved what their finest could not. That my sons are bonded with him completely." Sang-woo stared at her in horror. "You cannot be serious. The political implications would be catastrophic. It would suggest humans are more important than we believed. It would humiliate the Kraliks. It would undermine our entire position. It would also be the truth," Mayan said firmly. "And I am tired of politics mattering more than reality." She made her decision in that moment. She would meet Tae-sung. She would ask for his help. And she would show the galaxy that bonds were not inherited through genetics. They were built through choice. Tae-sung stood in the Imperial suite, certain he was about to be deported. The summons had come during his shift. 2 royal guards had escorted him here without explanation. They had not been rough, but they had been firm. He had frantically messaged his supervisor, wondering what rule he had broken. The suite was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high he could barely see it. The walls shimmered with colors that shifted as he moved. Everything screamed wealth and power, things that had nothing to do with Janitor like him. Then Empress Mayan entered, and Tae-sung's knees almost gave out. He had seen her on news broadcasts, of course. Everyone in the galaxy knew what she looked like. But seeing her in person was completely different. She was smaller than he had imagined, barely reaching his shoulder. But her presence filled the entire room. Her skin patterns swirled with colors he could not name or interpret. Tae-sung dropped to one knee immediately. He was not sure this was the right protocol, but it seemed respectful. "Please stand," Mayan said in perfect English. Her voice was softer than he expected. "You are not in trouble." Tae-sung stood slowly, his legs shaking. "Your Majesty, I apologize if I have done something wrong. I did not mean to—" "You have done nothing wrong," she interrupted gently. She gestured to a chair. "Please sit. We need to talk." Sitting felt wrong when an empress was standing, but Tae-sung obeyed. His mind raced through everything he had done in the past weeks. Had he accidentally broken some diplomatic rule? Had he contaminated something? Had he walked into a restricted area? Mayan moved to a large display screen on the wall. With a touch, footage began playing. Tae-sung saw himself entering the twins' room that first night. He watched himself sing the lullaby, the twins' patterns changing from red to purple, their crying stopping. His face burned with embarrassment. "I am sorry, Your Majesty." The children were distressed, and the nanny droid was broken. "I only wanted to help until—" "Watch," Mayan said quietly. The screen split. On one side was his footage. On the other side, new footage played. It showed large armored aliens approaching the twins. The children's patterns flashed bright red immediately. They screamed and backed away. The aliens tried different approaches. Soft voices, gifts, gentle movements. Nothing worked. Another clip showed different aliens, these ones tall and elegant with multiple arms. Same result. Red patterns. Screaming. Rejection. Clip after clip. Species after species. All failures. Then back to Tae-sung singing. The twins calm and happy. Reaching for him. Trusting him completely. "I do not understand," Tae-sung said honestly. Mayan turned to face him. "What you have done should be biologically impossible. When Vinthian children experience distress, they release pheromones that create a feedback loop. The fear makes more fear, growing stronger and stronger. Only members of the royal bloodline can produce counter pheromones to break this cycle." She paused, letting that sink in. "You have no royal blood. You have no Vinthian biology at all. Yet you calm my sons instantly, multiple times. They have bonded with you in a way that should only be possible with family." Tae-sung's mind struggled to process this. "But I just sang to them. I did what anyone would do for scared children." "No," Mayan said firmly. "You did what humans do. Most species in this galaxy rely on biology, on instinct and genetic programming. You use something else entirely. Music." Tae-sung offered weakly. "Chosen compassion," Mayan corrected. "You saw children in distress, and you chose to help. You did not need genetic compatibility or biological imperatives. You simply decided to care. And you used cultural tools that humans have developed over thousands of years. Lullabies, consistent presence, patience, the choice to connect across differences." She sat down across from him, her movements graceful. "My sons wait for you every night now. They have learned words from you. They trust you completely. Do you understand how profound that is?" Tae-sung thought of the twins' faces, the way they lit up when they saw him. "They are good kids," he said quietly. "They just needed someone to show up." "Exactly," Mayan said. "That is what makes this so remarkable. You did not see alien royals. You saw children. You treated them the same way you would treat your own daughter." At the mention of Hannah, Tae-sung's chest tightened. Mayan noticed. "I know about your daughter, about the financial difficulties, about the pressure to return to Earth." She leaned forward. "I need your help, Tae-sung. There is a diplomatic crisis. The Kralix Confederation demands proof that we can bond with outsiders. Their finest representatives have all failed with my sons. But you succeeded without even trying. I am just a janitor, Taesung said. You are a bridge, Mayan replied, and I am offering you a position. Cultural liaison and caregiver consultant. Proper pay, recognition, and your daughter could come here. Full scholarship to the station's academy. Education among the stars. A future you could not give her on Earth. Taesung's heart stopped. Hannah could come here? If you agree to help me. If you agree to show the Kralix and the galactic community what you have shown my sons, that bonds are not just biology. They are built through choice and care. Taesung's mind reeled. He thought of Hannah's face during their last video call. How she had asked when he was coming home. How she had tried to hide her disappointment when he said he did not know. He thought of her growing up on Earth with limited opportunities. Good schools cost money they did not have. Her mother worked 2 jobs already. But here, Hannah could learn alongside alien children. She could see the stars. She could have chances he had never dreamed of. What would I have to do? He asked. Demonstrate for the Kralix ambassadors what you do naturally. Show them that connection is possible across any divide. Help me build a new kind of alliance, one based on cultural exchange rather than genetic compatibility. Taesung thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. When can Hannah arrive? Mayan's pattern shifted to colors that might have been relief or joy. Within the week, I will arrange everything. She stood and extended her hand in the human custom. Taesung shook it, still feeling like he was in a dream. Thank you, Mayan said quietly. You have no idea how much you have already given my family. Now, perhaps you can help save an alliance and change how the galaxy thinks about connection. Taesung nodded, overwhelmed. He had come to the station 3 years ago as a divorced janitor trying to make ends meet. Now, he was apparently a bridge between species, a cultural liaison, a teacher of compassion, and most importantly, he would see his daughter again. Sometimes, he thought, showing up and being kind was enough. Sometimes that was everything. The diplomatic assembly hall fell silent as Taesung entered with his guitar. 200 alien dignitaries watched this ordinary human walk to the center of the room. The Vinthian twins, Princes Jiho and Mincio, rushed to him immediately, their bioluminescence blazing gold with joy. Taesung had never been so nervous in his entire life. He wore a simple suit, the nicest clothes he owned. His guitar felt heavy in his hands. Hundreds of eyes from dozens of species stared at him. He could feel their doubt, their confusion, their judgment. Who was this human? Why was he here? Ambassador Vorik's massive form shifted in his seat. His translator crackled to life. This is your solution, Empress? A human janitor? Mayan stood at the front of the assembly, her patterns calm and confident. Watch, she said simply. Taesung knelt down as the twins reached him. They threw their small arms around his neck, chattering excitedly in a mix of Vinthian, Korean, and English. Taesung, Taesung, you brought the music maker. Mincio exclaimed. Sing the star song. Jiho begged. Taesung smiled despite his nerves. These children made everything simpler. He sat cross-legged on the polished floor. The twins climbed into his lap without hesitation, getting comfortable like they had done this 100 times before. Because they had. The room stayed silent. Taesung could feel the weight of history pressing down on this moment. But when he looked down at the twins' eager faces, all that faded away. He began to play. The melody was soft and gentle, a Korean folk song his grandmother had taught him long ago. It was about the moon watching over children as they slept, about light in the darkness, about never being alone. He sang in Korean, his voice filling the enormous hall. The effect was immediate. The twins' bioluminescence synchronized, both children glowing in perfect rhythm with the music. Blues and purples rippled across their skin like waves on water. They swayed together, completely at peace. Halfway through the song, they began singing along. Their pronunciation was clumsy but enthusiastic. They knew every word, their high voices blending with his deeper tone. When the song ended, silence filled the hall again. But it was a different kind of silence now. Not doubt, wonder. Little Mincio turned to face the assembled diplomats. His patterns glowed with confidence as he spoke in careful English. Friend. Taesung is friend. Gio nodded seriously. He sings when we are scared. He shows up every night. Never forgets us. Ambassador Vorik leaned forward. His translator processed his words slowly, as if he was choosing them carefully. This is not biological bonding. No, Empress Mine agreed, stepping forward. It is better. It is chosen trust. My sons do not trust him because of genetics or pheromones. They trust him because he has proven himself trustworthy through consistent action and genuine care. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of delegates from every corner of the galaxy. This is what I propose for our alliance. Not genetic compatibility, not biological imperatives, but cultural exchange. Learning to care for each other across our differences. Building bridges instead of waiting for natural connections that may never come. Taesung stood, lifting both twins easily. They clung to him, still humming the melody. He looked at Ambassador Vorik directly. Humans are not the strongest species, Taesung said quietly. We are not the smartest or the most advanced. But we have spent thousands of years figuring out how to take care of each other despite our differences. We learned that family is not just blood. That connection is a choice you make every single day. He set the twins down gently. These children do not care that I am human, and they are Vinthian. They care that I show up, that I am gentle, that I remember what songs they like. Maybe that is worth something in a galaxy that needs more cooperation. Vorik was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his translator rendered his words with something that might have been respect. You are right. Human. Biology has failed where choice has succeeded. Perhaps the Kraliks have been thinking about alliance in the wrong way. He stood, his massive frame somehow less intimidating now. We accept this new proposal. Cultural exchange. Chosen bonds. We will send representatives to learn these human methods of connection. The hall erupted in conversation. Delegates from dozens of species began discussing, debating, reconsidering old assumptions. The treaty was signed 3 days later. New provisions included cultural exchange programs, human liaison training, and something called empathy diplomacy that Taesung had accidentally invented. 5 years later, everything had changed. Director Taesung Webb still did his janitorial rounds twice a week. Someone has to maintain the foundation before you build bridges on it. He would tell anyone who asked. His staff had learned to stop arguing with him about it. His daughter Hannah was 14 now. She was fluent in 4 languages, 3 of them alien. She had best friends from 6 different species. The station's observation deck was her favorite place to study, where she could see the stars and the ships coming and going. Right now, she was teaching Jiho and Mincio how to fold paper cranes. The princes were 8 years old, gangly and energetic, and obsessed with Earth culture. You have to crease it exactly here, Hannah explained patiently. See? If the fold is not sharp, the wings will not work right. Like this? Mincio asked, his 3 fingers carefully pinching the paper. Perfect. Taesung watched in the doorway, his heart full. Over 300 humans had gone through his training program now. They worked as cultural liaisons on stations and planets throughout the galaxy. Dozens of species had requested them specifically. Earth's reputation had shifted. Not warriors, not geniuses, but connectors, bridge builders, people who could see past species and find common ground. Dad! Hannah called. Come help Jiho. His crane keeps looking like a blob. Taesung laughed and walked over. Jiho's patterns flickered with embarrassment and amusement. I am terrible at this, the young prince admitted. You are learning, Taesung corrected gently. That is different. Here, watch. Peace starts with small, careful gestures, 1 fold at a time. He demonstrated the technique slowly. Jiho watched with intense concentration, then tried again. This time, the crane took shape. I did it, Jiho exclaimed, his bioluminescence flashing with pride. You did, Taesung agreed. Later, Empress Mine found him on the observation deck. She stood beside him in comfortable silence, watching her sons laugh with a human girl who had become like family. Do you ever regret it? she asked quietly. Agreeing to all of this? Taesung thought about that first night. The crying twins. The simple lullaby. The choice to help when he could have walked away. Never, he said. Some people change the galaxy with weapons or technology or grand speeches. I changed it by showing up and singing. That is enough for me. Mayan's patterns shifted to warm colors. It was more than enough. It was everything. They watched the children fold paper together, human and alien, creating something beautiful from simple materials and patience. Sometimes the most extraordinary things came from the most ordinary people. The end.